Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm in Wyoming, US. Thank you for the little map showing where I actually was. It's somewhere in the middle of the US. But I am a public health bioinformatician, and things are a little bit different on the public health side. But yeah, let's jump right in. The goal kind of on the public health side is to do less bioinformatics, more science. Like I very much enjoy creating bioinformatic pipelines. That's what I do. But on the public health side, you're probably more interested in us following up on a recent gonorrhea sample and knowing whether or not you should be on kind of being traced out, like letting known that, hey, you might need to get checked out. So you want us doing more of that side and less of the building pipelines. And also, most of our users these days are going to be relatively new to bioinformatics. And they're not going to want to know all the random nuances of why didn't this work, why didn't that work. They just want it to work. And when they run that pipeline, it should work. And so that's where the goal here is to create pipelines, much like the NF Core ones, that are less bioinformatics, more science, straight to the results. And for me, I'll be talking about my pipeline, Bactopia. And so Bactopia is a Nextflow DSL2 pipeline. It's for the complete analysis of bacterial genomes. The idea is you get some Illumina or Nanopore sequence in. It can be public available, sequence read archive, European Nucleotide Archive, any of those, or NCBI assembly. It's easily installed. It's public available through Conda, Docker, Singularity. It includes commands to supplement your analyses with public available genomes and publicly available datasets. So those datasets allow you to query all of GenBank or all of REST-seq. And then, much like the NF Core pipelines, it includes the ways to prepare file names that you can submit thousands of samples if you want. I think the record for Bactopia was 65,000 in 5 days on AWS. It was quite fun watching that on Tower. We didn't have very much red. I don't think we had red at all, that little red box. So it was quite nice. But the important part is here on step 6, you actually get to start running Bactopia. And what Bactopia does is throws more than 150 bioinformatic tools at your genomes. So the idea is you're going to run most of the common tools that you would in bacterial sequencing and get a slew of results. And then the next step, you have the ability to take this further. You can kind of think of Bactopia as per isolate analyses. And on step 7, you have the Bactopia Tools, which are additional workflows to do comparative genomics on your samples. So that may be create phylogenetic trees based on core genomes, all sorts of fun things, species-specific analyses. But these are all separate workflows that are a part of Bactopia, more or less on the Nextflow side. They're just sub-workflows. And after all this, the hardest part of it all, you got a slew of results that you have to start digging through. And being the sole maintainer of Bactopia, by the time I started writing Bactopia, I was seasoned enough in failures that I wanted to put together, I asked myself, how can I minimize the maintenance burden and while contributing back to the community? Because if I make things on the Bactopia side and don't contribute back to the community, they stay there. Those fixes and stuff don't go back to the community. And yeah, things are taking that. The assumption is most bioinformatic tools will not be funded for long-term maintenance. And yeah, you find a bug, you find more bugs, and they just keep coming. And keep in mind, all the tools within these pipelines are going through the same thing that you may be as a pipeline developer. They're tools, so it's a lot of volunteer effort. And you just got to keep that in mind. So for Bactopia, I wanted to be able to create something that doesn't burn me out and also gives back. So I set some basic ground rules when I first started. Tools must be free and open source because in academia or government, when you start asking the paychecks to come out, it's a red tape bureaucracy nightmare, and it's going to take forever. So make it free. We can use it, no questions. And open source because if there's an issue, you can go investigate, can I fix this issue? And if yes, I can fix this issue, can I just submit a pull request back to the maintainer? Say, hey, I found this. Here's a solution. Yeah, take it. Also, tools must be available from Bioconda CondaForge because nobody should be building from source anymore. Nobody should have to go through those dependency dungeons. So yeah, everything's Bioconda CondaForge. And yeah, all Bactopia tools, those separate sub-workflows should be available from NF-core modules because there's no need to reinvent the wheel in 2022, especially in the public health setting. And so right now you might be saying, oh, those are kind of basic, but how do those help your users while also contributing back to the community? And so over the last few years, it's worked out quite well. So I'll start with the NF-core tool module, or NF-core modules. By being introduced to NF-core modules, I got introduced to so many nice features on the NF-core side that aren't modules. So I got introduced to the CI, GitHub Actions, PyTest, how all that's working, and was able to implement that back into Bactopia. I got introduced to the NF-core library with the params and argument parsing and all that, and was able to take that and create dynamic config and schema loading for those sub-workflow Bactopia tools. And there's a whole slew of features that by kind of just looking at NF-core, I got introduced to. But also, when I set this requirement that I would only use modules from NF-core modules, I quickly found out bacterial analyses were relatively underrepresented. So it led to the submission of more than 45 and new modules to the modules and more than 20 existing updates to existing modules. So these are now bacterial modules that people can use without having to use Bactopia. So you can just kind of toss Bactopia out. They can create their own thing. But now they have the tools to create their own bioinformatic analyses for bacterial pathogens. Tools must be available from Bioconda. Yeah, this introduced me to the Bioconda community. And again, I am not a fan of building from source. I don't want people to have to do that. There's too many frustrating nights doing that back in the day. So it's led to 25 recipes contributed. That's now a recipe that, anybody in the world no longer has to figure out how to install this program. They just Conda install it. Many updates to existing recipes, and a good bit of these come from submissions to modules when we submit it to the modules and we find out, oh, the Docker container doesn't work or the Singularity container doesn't work. And so we have to go make a change to update the recipe so it works. And a crap ton of PR reviews because nobody wants to be stuck in line waiting for a PR review that's needed for another PR. And there's a secret behind how to get that number that high if you're interested. But more importantly, just like the idea of, hey, I'm going to use Bioconda, it got me introduced to the community, and now I'm actually part of the Bioconda core team, so I'm helping, drive the development in Bioconda. And tools must be free and open source. I'm not a fan of a fun analysis or a fun tool being locked away in a pipeline. So anything in Bactopia I think is useful to the community as a whole, just make it available as a standalone tool. There's no need to lock it behind a pipeline. And so these tools have been downloaded more than 100,000 times. So in our small niche world of public health, people find it useful, which is quite nice. And they don't have to use Bactopia to use it. And also, it's because it's open source, I've been able to submit many PRs upstream when users or the CI finds bugs in a tool. And those include things like Bowtie and some bacterial-specific ones, such as Collaborate and Shigatyper. So yeah, my life the last few years is basically user finds a bug and I submit a PR somewhere. But also for many of the NF-core community, yeah, you get a review. Just ping me. We have this kind of nice dynamic where many of you are ending your day when I'm starting my day. So it's kind of like a passing of the baton. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Please don't hesitate if you want to learn more about contributing on the Bioconda side. Some final remarks. As we become, it's going to become more and more important that as pipeline developers, we work closely with the tool developers. Because again, most of the tool developers are maintaining those tools thanklessly and voluntarily in their free time. So work with them. If you can help them in any way, help them. Also join inclusive bioinformatic communities, ask questions, and make contributions. I attended one of the NF-Core hackathons, and I was like, oh, that's cool, I'll attend a hackathon. But like I said, working with Harshal, I got to learn a lot about how the CI and how PyTest works. So I took away a whole lot more than I gave at that point. It was a lot of correcting tests, but we made it work. So join the inclusive bioinformatic community. We're all looking for people to volunteer, so if you bring a shovel, we'll have you start digging. And yeah, if you're starting a new Nextflow pipeline, start with NF-Core. Bactopia predates NF-Core, so that's unfortunate. But check out the new pipelines, not because to join NF-Core or anything, but because there's going to be other people who are interested in this as well. And work together and build a pipeline together in real time. And just remember, you don't have to be NF-Core to use all the NF-Core practices. Take advantage of them. And with that, I would like to thank Sakara for hosting us. It's been quite awesome, the NF-Core group for the hackathon. But, and really, I would really like to thank all of the developers of open source tools that make their tools freely available to the community. Much of what we do today would not be possible without these free and open source tools. So please cite the tools in all these pipelines. I can't stress that enough. Just cite them, because much of them are dependent on those citations for continued funding if they get funded. So please cite your tools. And yeah, thank the folks at the Wyoming Public Health Laboratory, the many volunteers of Bioconda, NF-Core, and Nextflow. Again, a lot of volunteers, a lot of people around the world volunteer in their free time. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, my mentor and great friend, Tim Reed at Emory. And with that, I will take questions and leave y'all with some beautiful scenes of Wyoming.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rod. My mic's good? Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So the first question we've got is from Alex, and he's asking you, what do you do with tools when they're not yet in Bioconda? How have you gone about that?
I add them. Most of those tools that I get added is something I want to use it, but I also don't want to build it from source. So I'm going to do it one time by submitting it to Bioconda, and now nobody else in the world has to do it. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Okay, doing the legwork.
No, developers, make it easy to be added. I will ask that.
Yes. And Phil's asking, did you have to make many changes to your pipeline to accept the NF-Core modules? Yes,
I do. So there are subtle differences between them, but when I submit them to NF-Core, they are in NF-Core standard format. Most of those subtle changes are to kind of deal with the ways I break NF-Core practices.
We've got a question from Maxime, which is asking any plans for a Bactopia in NF-Core?
We have discussed this multiple times. I think the conversion from DSL2 or DSL1 to 2 kind of made it better that at this point in time, I stick to the side.
Because you're still in DSL1? Or?
No, it's DSL2.
Okay.
It's just, there's some, for very short running things, so like you assemble a genome, you just took 10 minutes to assemble it, and now you just want some stats. That takes 2 seconds. I group all those up into a single process, which doesn't play quite nicely with NF-Core practices. So I think at this point, no, but I will always be on the outside contributing back.
Yeah, there's definitely an idea of making the right unit of compute, essentially, making
Yes.
sure you put the right amount of tools in that, yeah. We've also got another question from Rob Patra, which is asking us the question around it. when you have like open source software that you include, do you have any restrictions on specific licenses? And do you have any preferred licenses for the tools that you do include?
I am not a lawyer. Honestly, as long as it's an open one and someone else who is not a lawyer has added to Bioconda, I am not a lawyer.
Awesome. That's all the questions we've got. So I think. Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob.